is sponsored by PCBWay.
Hey there, this is Seth Schaefer from Team Just Cause Robotics, and this is SSP, the original shameless self-promotion and the basis for my 3-pound combat robot kit, the SSP Kit, which looks pretty much exactly like this, and which you can buy at justcauserobotics.com, link in the description. This robot is designed to be the best entry point for anybody in the 3-pound weight class to get into the sport of combat robotics, and I still firmly believe that it could be that. But sometimes I need to go to a competition and prove that SSP still has what it takes in a field of increasingly more powerful robots, better drivers, and constant iteration that the sport of combat robotics brings. Every single person is upping their game every single year. Last time SSP went to the Bot Brawl tournament, it fought 8 times. I don't actually have a full event recap listed for that, but if you go to the description to my Patreon, I've uploaded a video containing all 8 of those fights, and I just changed it so that that video is available to be viewed for free, so you don't even need to become a paid member to see it, but you'll just see the fights with no commentary or anything in between. Now for this video, I will be giving my Fights Plus commentary, talking about how SSP did at this tournament in 2024. Last year, I ended up fighting a huge slew of horizontal spinners, and this year was no different. So I knew to come prepared with the thick 3mm AR500 wedge that the SSP kit is known for. That wedge is ridiculously thick for a 3-pound bot, and I only have it as part of the kit because A, this kit's already super underweight, so there's no reason to skimp on it for something like titanium that would be way more expensive, and B, a flat single piece of metal that's laser cut is simply just the cheapest way to make a really durable wedge for a combat robot. So may as well have that as an affordable add-on for the kit to make it more accessible for more of you guys to get into the sport. So SSP is a 4-wheel drive control bot with a servo-powered lifting arm. So this arm can be controlled to any angle that I would like. This is different from an inactive just fork or wedge bot because this lifting arm adds a lot of dimensionality to what I can do with it. First off, it allows the robot to flip itself over if it ever gets stuck upside down. And second of all, it allows me to lift up my opponents and get a couple of their wheels off the ground more easily so I can push them around better. And I can even thread the lifter inside of the weapon disc cutouts on horizontal spinners and do other things to interfere with my opponents a lot better than I could if there was no actuated component on the bot. Now, like I said, SSP is fighting in a field of bots that have always been upgrading and getting more and more powerful and more reliable over time. So the SSP kit has also upgraded a little bit along the way too. But the basis of the SSP kit was really solid from the start, so there's been some pretty minor tweaks and changes. Number one is the chassis geometry is a little bit different. This is actually one of the slightly older revisions of the chassis, but I brought a second copy of the bot with a slightly newer one with me. I basically just made some really minor geometry tweaks to make it a little bit more durable, so I didn't suffer the same kind of damage that I had happen last year at the 2023 Bot Brawl. I had some hits come into this back corner and they were able to peel this part of the chassis apart, and I added a bit more material and a fillet here to make it so that that's less likely to happen ever again. I also have a new speed controller driving the drive motors in here, so there's 2 drag and drive motors here and here. That's how the kit has always been since its first version, but I'm using a prototype of a dual ESC called the Weka that I've been developing to be the best brushed speed controller for combat robot drive ever. That isn't quite available yet, it's still in beta, but I'm hoping in the next few weeks that I'll have a production version of it ready for you guys soon. That said, the floor of the arena made it so I could control the bot a lot worse. It was much more slippery than I remembered, and that was going to make it a real challenge for a control bot driver like myself to stay on top of things. So that didn't mean that anything was going to be easy going forward in this competition. Now, Bot Brawl is an event hosted in Toronto, Canada at a huge anime expo called Anime North. So this year they branded the event as AniMAYHEM, and this was a trip that I took up there with the Bloodsport team. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know that I'm a member of the Bloodsport BattleBots team, and both last year and this year, we took this as a cool team trip up to Toronto, driving about 9 hours from the Boston area in my case, to attend this event. Alright, with all that out of the way, this is already going to be a long recap, so let's get right into the event format and then into the fights. This event was a pretty typical standard tournament format. It was double elimination, so lose once and you're put into an elimination bracket, lose a second time, and you're done and go home. My first fight of the day was up against a bot called Muncher. Now, SSP got a bye in the first round, which meant that there was a round of fights that happened before this happened. During that first round, the very first fight of the entire event in the Vita weight class was Reputation versus Death Muncher. And, well, I'll let you see how that fight played out. So, starting the event off strong with a thermal event, because you don't want to yell fire in a crowded event venue. Basically, the battery got ripped straight out of Reputation in one massive hit. So Death Muncher definitely isn't screwing around. That said, their spin up time looked pretty slow compared to what I'm used to, so I knew if I just stayed on them, it shouldn't be a problem to tank a hit or two with my wedge, and just try and prevent their blade from ever getting up to speed. Let's see how this fight played out.
Thank you.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Fight, robots, fight. Shameless self-promotion has insane maneuverability and a great little lifting fork on the top. Death Muncher has that huge spinning blade on the front, hasn't managed to get it up to speed yet, but if it does, look out. Okay, maybe not. Might be having some issues there. Robots do get the Jesus beat out of them. Two, one, release. Give it a second release. There you go. Robots are allowed to lift, pin, or hold for 10 seconds only at a time before having to release. Wow, that was some great driving from SSP. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. SSP with the sport. Let's hear a round of applause for SSP with the sportsmanship release, giving us some more fighting robots here.
I could have taken an easy win here, but I decided to free my opponent so that they could keep fighting. I probably wouldn't do this if we were in the losers bracket already, but since I have 2 chances at this, I may as well be able to push the bot around and make a better show for this big crowd.
It'd be really nice if that motor kind of kicked into high gear at some point. 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining. SSP, you can purchase a robot like SSP from Just Cause Robotics. 3, 2, 1, release. SSP is putting on a show here in control. This is how you want to do it as a control bot. And you know, I always thought that one of the best weapons would just be like a stick. And there you go, a stick. Last 15 of this one. It'll probably go to the judges, but I think we know who's got this locked up.
Three, 2, 1, match over.
We have a unanimous decision for the Red Robot SSP. The judges, I have to say, I'm probably jinxing it a bit, have had a pretty easy day. We had like one tough match to call.
If you're ever designing a combat robot with a spinning weapon, make sure that its weapon can get up to a dangerous speed in less than, I'd say, 4 to 5 seconds. Doesn't have to be at full speed within 4 or 5 seconds, but at least a dangerous speed, because this bot took like 10 seconds to get its weapon up to full speed, and I would say the first like 7 seconds of that, it was going pretty slow. So it was no problem for me to just catch up with them and stop that blade pretty much every chance that I got, and pretty easy pushing them around for 3 minutes for the win. My next up opponent was going to be Bloodsport teammate Nick with his overhead spinner Phantom 3. Now, despite having a blade mount on top of it, Phantom 3 is an unbelievably compact robot, and its blade height was still very well below the top of my wedge. I was worried at first that they'd skim over the top of the wedge and hit the wheels, but that was very much not the case. So this was going to be another game of trying to stay on them, prevent that blade from spinning up, push them against the walls, and just basically try and make sure that I didn't get hit anywhere really vulnerable like the sides or especially the back or the wheels of my bot. Let's see how this one went.
2, 1, fight.
Fight, robots, fight! Great driving from SSP to get across the arena really quickly.
Despite having a gigantic spinner on top of his bot, turns out that Nick's strategy for this fight was to use his front forks to be able to get under my wedge and just be able to control me around. I guess that was a less risky strategy than potentially having his weapon break and then losing on damage. That said, I was able to pin him against the wall, and then it was up to me to decide whether to keep the match going. I did decide to do that because A, Nick's friend, and B, same as last time, I wanted there to be a good show, but this was definitely a lot more playing with fire than that last fight.
Phantom 3 back on its feet. SSP's wearing it like a hat. Phantom 3 has those purple things, like those are designed so that it can still drive when it's upside down, but it is struggling to get back up. Right, there it is, good driving.
Nick told me after this fight that while Phantom 3 was designed to self-right like you just saw, this is the first time in multiple years of combat that it ever successfully did so during a fight.
Wanting it to get that giant blade spun up. Good driving from SSP and Phantom 3 here. Two veteran builders. Huge shot.
You can see why I was more scared of Phantom than I was of Death Muncher.
Now with those impacts. There are parts of Robot all over the arena now. Or is that the floor? I don't even know. Looks like SSP at some point lost its poker, or part of it at least. Massive impact. You can see the impacts being all wall shape. Resiliency in both robots. We're in the final minute of this match, and they're still going at full tilt. SSP with the pin, can hold for another 4 seconds still. 3, 2, 1. Robots allowed to pin for 10 seconds, important for establishing control in the eye of the judges. And it's looking like this will go to the judges. Good shoving from Phantom 3 here at the end. Staying aggressive.
10 seconds remaining.
Boy, this is a close match.
3, 2, 1. Match.
They made it the distance. Let's hear a round of applause for both robots. Both showing full functionality here at the end of this one. And it's going to be tough for the judges for sure.
Well, that was a lot closer than I wanted it to be. The judges' metric for this event, when a fight goes to the judges, is based on 8 points for damage, I believe it's 6 for aggression, and 5 for control. This ended up being a split decision, but it did go in my favor with SSP getting the win. That said, a lot too close for comfort. My next fight was going to be another BNS teammate with Caldera. Fighting Glenn Boxall and Caldera, honestly, is not a terrible matchup for me in general, but Caldera is definitely the pinnacle of 3-pound horizontal spinner design. I don't know if there's any bot that comes anywhere close to how reliable Caldera is as a horizontal spinner. Now, I still have a huge wedge, and I know that they're not going to punch straight through it, but Glenn's an amazing driver, and making sure that I can stay squared up with him all the time is no easy task. So I was still pretty scared going into this fight. Let's see how this one went.
So again, this is the semi-finals of the Beetle 8 winners bracket. Winner goes on to the finals. In the red corner, we have Caldera. In the white corner, Shameless Self-Promotion.
Red team, are you ready? White team, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, fight.
Fight Robots, fight. Shameless Self-Promotion goes out and hits Caldera into the wall and is upside down. 10, 9, 8.
Yeah, this is super frustrating. I've never once had this happen. I think I've never had to tighten the shoulder bolt that holds this in because I've never had it come loose before. But I think it might have just been loose and the shoulder bolt wasn't fully supporting the arm, so when he hit it, it just popped the arm servo horn out from the servo. And then I couldn't drive it anymore. The servo still seems to work fine, so... Oh no, actually it sheared the shoulder bolt. There's a bit of a thread there. Caldera just hit super hard. Alright, so basically servo seems to be fine. The drives are fine. I just need to swap that servo spline and arm and shoulder bolt and put this back on basically. You see that snap the servo arm in half. I gave the broken shoulder bolt and the other half to Glenn Voxel. So I'm gonna try and quickly fix this, and then I have to pull the lid off this spot, swap the forks, add the side skirts, and that should be good to go. Yeah, that was not how I wanted that fight to go. Honestly, I've never once in all of the dozens of fights SSP has had seen this happen, but basically Caldera hit so hard that they were able to shear the shoulder bolt supporting the servo arm in half and pull the servo arm out from the servo spline. The servo itself was actually fine, and I kept using it later in the day, but there was no connection between the arm and the servo anymore, which meant I couldn't self-right after getting flipped in an extremely bizarre first hit. So that was it, and it was time for me to be making some extensive repairs to replace the arm and get the bot in working order. Fortunately, there wasn't really anything else damaged, so all I had to do was replace the TPU arm and replace that sheared shoulder bolt and get the bot back in action, which only took about 10 minutes. This would put me down into the losers bracket, where I was going to have to fight the gamut of even more horizontal spinners once again. Alright, so next opponent is Ipsiety, right there. I'm going to do one cheeky little thing. These are softer TPU mounts. I just drilled some extra holes. I'm going to see if maybe I can just sink these screws through so that the dovetails don't pop out if he gets behind the wedge. Next up in the losers bracket, all my fights now are do or die, and I had to do a rematch against a bot named Ipsiety. Ipsiety was completely redesigned for this event. Last year, we went 1-1, but this time, Ipsiety is more reliable and more deadly, and they have an incredibly powerful undercutter that if they can get around to the sides of my bot, could easily snipe a wheel if they're right side up. My goal here is to get them flipped upside down so that their weapon just skims over the top of SSP, but that still risks them being able to chew away at my wheels and doesn't necessarily make things that much easier for me. Plus, Ipsiety has a ton of moment of inertia in their disc, and they do some really weird gyro-dancey stuff when they get that weapon up to speed, so they could hit me in some really weird and unpredictable places, making it much harder for me to drive against them than it would be against a standard horizontal spinner. Let's see how this fight went and whether I was able to stay on them the whole time.
3, 2, 1, fight.
We had a lighting count full right as the match would start. Great timing.
This floor is so bad, oh my god.
Ipsiety doing some serious rips at the front of that wedge.
Oh shit.
Shameless Self-Promotion doing a good job being aggressive even with opponent has a huge...
I thought going into this fight that Ipsiety's blade would still be at a height to hit my wheels when they were flipped, but it turns out they skim just harmlessly over them, so I really just had to worry about them hitting my arm.
Ipsiety in the other wall. Ipsiety manages to get away long enough to get spun up. Upside down means that it's in not a great position to kill anything except SSP's arm. Which I'm sure he'd be happy to remove for it. but it won't end the match. Almost back on its feet there.
Anytime I can keep their weapon stopped is good for me, so using my arm to stick through their weapon blade is definitely going to be a good move.
Going for the pin, 9 seconds, 8, 3, 2, 1, release. SSP has to release Ipsiety. Robots only allowed to pin, lift, or clamp for 10 seconds at a time. Ipsiety, no, does not make it back onto its feet, doing everything it can to get back into a position where it can do damage to the opponent. Shameless self-promotion, barely letting it even get spun. Every time it starts to spin, it closes the gap and slams it into the wall just like that. Shameless self-promotion, putting on a driving penalty. Slamming Ipsiety into the wall. And Ipsiety only needs 1 or 2 hits like that to take our robot out. Looks like one of the drive wheels on Shameless self-promotion might have been damaged by that impact. Maybe.
Honestly, I don't know why the bot wasn't driving quite right after this, because when it was right side up, it was just fine, but for whatever reason upside down, I think maybe the wedge was dragging on the floor on one side more than on the other, and I was getting uneven traction.
SSP can't quite get itself right. Ipsiety, what are you doing? What is that? Stop doing that. Attack. There you go.
Ten seconds remaining.
Well, this has been a bizarre match.
3, 2, 1. Match over.
Shameless self-promotion. Let's hear it for both the robots. Shameless self-promotion did an amazing job not giving Ipsiety the space it needed to self-ride. And Ipsiety frustratingly spent, I think, 2.5 minutes of a 3-minute match on its back, with its blade out of the range of its opponent's vital components.
This fight went really well for me. I was able to control the whole fight with Ipsiety upside down without as much risk of getting damaged. Towards the end, when I did get flipped upside down, fortunately I was still able just to skate underneath their blade. I was trying to get myself self-righted, but I just didn't have enough traction on this floor to be able to do it the way that works well on some other floor textures I've driven on. So I kind of had to flop around upside down and keep trying to control the fight as best as I could. So that was pretty nerve-wracking, but managed to pull out the win anyway, since SSP suffered 0 damage throughout the fight, and I was totally in control and more aggressive for most of it. Next up, I was going to have to fight a Fingertech beater bar called PPK. So finally, I get to switch away from the wedge back to the standard hinged fork config. This version of the kit is what you can see in front of you here. I added some side skirts, which are an optional upgrade, but otherwise, this is exactly what you'd get if you purchased an SSP kit today for the lowest priced option. There is one slight difference, though, which is that I have AR600 front forks that RECR Waterjet cut for me. Unfortunately, they don't seem to offer this service anymore, but AR500 forks are almost as good, and they would come included with the kit in AR500 as well. So, basically, the goal is feed the forks straight into their drum over and over again. If they're flipped over, try and keep them upside down. And just in general, make sure that they can't hit the back of my bot, which is the most vulnerable part and the only place they can do any real sizable damage. As always, I want to control the fight as much as I can and keep their weapons spun down as much as I can too. So, could I pull it off? Let's find out.
3, 2, 1. Fight.
Fight robots, fight! Wow, that was a great rush from SSP, managing to get into PPK's face before the beater bars got up.
Sorry, did I say that your weapon should be dangerous in 4 seconds? If you're fighting SSP, make that 1.4.
But SSP just had an extra 15 seconds. They didn't have to deal with that beater bar, and is doing it again with that lifter going right into the beater and lifting PPK out. The strategy here for the Teal robots gotta be to get around to the sides.
This fight was the loser's quarterfinal, which means the winner essentially is guaranteed at least 3rd place and would go on, in this case, to fight Caldera in the semifinal for the tournament. Caldera lost to Eruption earlier in the day, which meant they ended up in the loser's bracket at the very top.
Great driving from Shady's self-promotion. It has been putting on a driving clinic. A good hit from PBK. Oh, really good opportunity, but SSP moved out of the way at the last second. Great driving again. PBK with a good shot there.
I forgot to mention there is one other upgrade that I made to SSP for this event. Instead of the normal dovetail fork mounts, I actually have some customized ones that bridge behind the dovetails to make it less likely that the forks pop out against speeder bars like this. This seems to make a world of difference, though it comes with an increased risk of destroying the chassis, which is why I haven't been shipping that standard with the kits, but I might start offering that as a paid upgrade as well. And I think that you can find the files for those on Thingiverse if you want to 3D print some yourself.
Sometimes that works better for beaters. They can give them a really good fight on a wheel if it gets a good angle.
1 minute remaining.
A cheer from the crowd as PBK is back on its feet. It's got 50 seconds to try to do some damage. And it looks like the bolt has come off.
That was a little bit close for comfort. The bot can drive upside down with the arm out in front of it, but with the arm folded back behind, it obviously doesn't let the wheels touch the ground upside down.
SSP relentless. What a match.
We're stuck.
Pause the match. Pause the match. Pause, weapon down. There are 8 seconds left in the night in the match. Robots, if they're stuck, we pause and separate. There won't be time for a knockout, but we could see some critical damage.
2, 1, fight.
And there's another big win.
2,
1.
match over.
PBK managing one last hit. Let's hear it for both of our robots. Great driving from both drivers. That was seriously a high level of robot fighting.
Another tough fight, but another unanimous judges' decision win for SSP. Now, this meant I got to fight in the losers semifinal once again against Caldera. Earlier in the day, Caldera and Eruption fought, and Caldera lost that first bout. So they were sent down to the losers bracket, and once again I had to face them. I was determined to make sure that this fight didn't go the same way as the last one. If I got flipped over, I knew I was done for. So this time I just had to hope for the best that our first exchange wouldn't result in some weird physics stuff happening, and I just had to be absolutely perfect with my driving for the full 3 minutes to be able to eke out the win here. Let's see how this one went and whether I was able to pull it off.
In terms of design. Robots getting a quick feel of the arena while judges get set. Once again, this is our 3-pound semifinal. In the red corner, we have Caldera. In the white corner, we have Shameless Self-Promotion.
Red team, are you ready?
Caldera's ready.
White team, are you ready?
SSP is ready.
3, 2, 1, fight.
Fight Robots fight. And you can see why I said this was a good matchup for the red robot. It's really good at deflecting those blows with that angled wedge. The edges of the wedge might be vulnerable. Might be able to tear that wedge off with a gentle shot. Like that one. Good hit. close to that arm. The clan kind of coming down on Caldera. Caldera taking chunks out of our arena floor, flinging it around the arena. SSP trying to stick to the backs inside. Slam from SSP, running that weapon into the arena.
There were a lot of sketchy moments during this fight where I thought for sure Caldera was going to take out a wheel, but I had to just keep spinning around and facing them.
Caldera managing a nice hit there. Certainly putting up a fight against SSP. And it only takes one good hit to knock something loose inside the robot. Great tracking from both robots here. SSP trying to control the match as much as possible. Hasn't been able to slow the weapon down.
That hit right there hit behind my arm and shoved it forward, and it separated from the servo spline, so now the arm is basically stuck slightly more forward than it used to be. I can still bring it down all the way, but I can't bring it all the way back up. If I get flipped now, it's game over. At this point in the fight, I noticed Caldera's drive was really struggling, but I had to keep going in for hits to stay aggressive in order to win a JD.
Pardon me, Caldera. Last 20 seconds of this match.
And right there is where I lost this fight.
Self-promotion, what insane timing for Caldera. That gives an opening for some more hits.
3, 2, 1. Match over.
Wow, right up to the wire. Every last little hit's gonna factor in. What a fight.
Well, that was a really tough one for me. I mean, I walked away with third place from the event. I can't really complain too much about that. I have the trophy right here, actually. However, that was such a close fight. I felt like if I had just hadn't made one slight mistake in the last 15 seconds, I could have pulled out the win. That said, if I had won that fight, I would have had to fight Eruption in the final, and I would have had to somehow beat Eruption twice in order to take the tournament victory. And there was pretty much zero chance of that happening. Eruption is just on another level from a fingertech beater bar like PPK. They had by far the most fast and aggressive driving in the entire tournament. Their wheels are just something else, and without the edge in speed and control, there's not much that a control bot like an SSP can really do against such an incredible top-tier bot like Eruption. However, what ended up actually happening was that Caldera and Eruption ended up fighting twice, and both times in the final, Caldera managed to win, with Caldera taking the ultimate victory and Eruption ending up in second, with SSP the third place winner. So a whole Team BNS sweep for the top 3 places of this tournament, and we were all pretty happy with that, at least. Editing Seth here. Few notes that I forgot to mention before when I was recording the other segments. First of all, I'd like to thank our channel sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay machined the billet aluminum chassis for Subtraction version 3, which you can see here, and which competed at the June 1st NHRL Teams event with Colossal Avian and Yob Null on our team. They also machined some awesome parts, which I'll include some footage of now, for Colossal Avian's hammer saw mechanism. They're a 30-pound overhead saw bot. If you want to get some awesome machined parts or use their PCB production service or 3D printing service, check out PCBWay at the link down below, and you can get $5 off of your first order. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss it when that Teams event recap comes out and all of my other future stuff. I've got some really exciting things planned for the next few weeks. I'm going to be taking a break for the next week starting on Saturday, but I will also be assembling a Avid CNC router so I can start machining some awesome metal and plastic parts in-house for my own bots, and maybe even some light production work that goes into products that you'll be able to buy from my store in the future. It's going to be a while getting that machine up and running and then dialing in feeds and speeds and everything, but let me know in the comments, would you like to see some content about CNC machining on this channel and what it takes to really get your head around it and the differences between 3D printing and CNC. The additive to subtractive manufacturing pipelines are extremely different, and I think CNC machining is much more difficult and a heck of a lot more expensive than 3D printing tends to be, at least for the machine costs. But I still think it might be something that people would be interested in. So yeah, let me know. So yeah, keep an eye out in the future. I will have an event recap from the June 1st event, and I'll probably have some content relating to the CNC and some other things coming up in the next couple months. I don't have any specific timelines for things yet, but I'll be sure to keep people updated in the NHRL Discord or through my YouTube community page and stuff like that. So not going anywhere if you don't see something from me for a while, but I should have one more video out hopefully at the end of June. All right. That's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching.